The Indianapolis Colts offense might be getting a major boost in Week 5 as 2 starters return to practice on Wednesday. Let's get to it.
You are Locked On Colts, your daily Indianapolis Colts podcast. Part of your team every day.
Thank you all for tuning in and making us your first listen of the day. This is your daily podcast covering your Indianapolis Colts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Hello, everyone. My name is Zach Hicks, your resident film nerd of HorseshoeHuddle.com, and my partner Jake Arthur is our credentialed boots on the ground over at Round Table Sports. Make sure you're checking that out. We're going to dive into the injury report and how there's some good, some bad, like a typical injury report, but it does look like this Colts offense is getting a little bit healthier going into Week 5. And then we're at the quarter mark of the season, or roughly the quarter mark of the season. We have 1 month in the books. So we're going to talk about the strengths and weaknesses of this Colts team through the first forward. But Jake, we have our big injury report on Wednesday. Obviously, it's the first injury report of the week. And notable did not participate today. Zaire Franklin with an ankle injury. He looked like he's come up lame like the last 2 weeks on a couple plays. So it doesn't shock me too much that he missed a practice. I would be kind of shocked if he missed a game because he's just an Iron Man type of player that, like, you know, it's kind of like in that DeForest Buckner type of realm where it's like if he's breathing still, he's going to be out there on Sunday. So
for sure.
Yeah, so I expect him to be out there on Sunday, but Tyler Goodson at running back, he missed with a groin. Xavier Howard missed with a personal reason. Kenny Moore is still out with that Achilles injury, and safety Daniel Scott missed with a knee. But good news is Matt Goncalves returned to practice as a limited participant with his toe injury and a full participant for Alec Pierce with that concussion. He appears to be in the very final stages of passing concussion protocols. So we do have some concerns at the top there, Jake, but Goncalves and Pierce back at practice, that has to get everyone excited going into Week 5.
Yeah, without question. And, you know, we got to work on Shane's verbiage of things because, again, we asked if Matt Goncalves was going to practice, and he said, we'll see. We're going to work him out and then see how the week goes. That's a practice, buddy. He is padded up to practice. Same thing happened with Latu a couple weeks ago. But no, that's good. I mean, obviously, an offensive lineman, if they're practicing, typically they're going to play. And, I mean, Dalton Tucker, not the greatest game in the world against the Rams. I'm not going to give really any of the offensive linemen a blue ribbon for that one. But Goncalves is obviously a starter for a reason. He has been one of your best offensive linemen, period, throughout this young season so far. So great if he's able to play. They'll obviously need everything they can take against Max Crosby and the up-and-coming Jonah Laulu, who is really balling for the Raiders. And the Colts are going to hope that doesn't haunt them this weekend. So that's great for Goncalves. Pierce, obviously, people were begging to donate their heads and brains to Pierce after the game last weekend when AD had his issues. So Pierce, if he's following the same kind of trajectory that Travis Ward did a few weeks back, no practice throughout the first week with the concussion, return on the first day of practice the next week as a full participant. I think what they'll do is probably keep him in the protocol, you know, and see if he can get through an entirety of practice and then get that clearance from an independent neurologist afterward before the game, and then, you know, totally wipe him off the injury report. So fingers crossed that's how that goes. Zaire, like you mentioned, they might be just being cautious with that. Don't know yet if it's the same ankle he had a procedure on in the offseason. But if it is, they're probably just going to kind of tread lightly with that and maintain him a little bit like they are with DeForest Buckner's back. So probably just playing it safe with that. We spoke to him today before practice, before we knew he was going to miss practice, and it didn't come up. It didn't seem like a thing at the time. Goodson, now he left the game last week with that groin, left briefly, came back, seemed to re-aggravate it, and then just did not come back into the game. So I'm a little curious if that's going to affect his availability this week. We'll certainly see. They've got, Ulysses Bentley and Amir Abdullah on the practice squad if they need to call anybody up. And then Howard, we need to ask about that one. That could run the gamut of things. Obviously, could just be like a personal thing you have to take care of for a day, or, there's just anything that could be. So we'll keep an eye on that one, see if he returns to practice. Um, Obviously, we have been discussing whether he should be playing or not, regardless. So we'll see how that one goes. Kenny Moore, yeah, we should expect him to not be practicing this week, I would imagine. Now, Shane did say he's progressing, so that's always good. But when it's the Achilles, I would just absolutely love to take it a little bit lightly with that one and make sure he's 100% before he returns, especially with how Mike Hilton was playing on Sunday. Just really hit the ground running for them. And then our boy Daniel Scott, hopefully that's just a little bit of maintenance and a little bit of precaution, because he is, after all, a special team standout for them. So, yeah, lots of names on the list today, but they definitely got some good news with Goncalves and Pierce, a couple of offensive starters getting back out there.
Yeah, for sure. And I think a big thing, too, with just getting Matt Goncalves back and also Alec Pierce. I mean, this Colts offense was on fire through the first 3 weeks of the season. And it's like, it's like we saw it kind of take a big step back this past week. And it's not only because of, just those two guys missing. It's not just going to be attributed to those two guys having the week off, but you want to get back to everything that was working in those first couple of weeks and just getting the full healthy offense back out there. Look, the defense is going through their issues with all the injuries right now, regardless. But the offense, if you can get those guys back out there, get Goncalves with his inability to allow pressures this year, only 2 pressures in the 3 games that he played allowed this year. Alec Pierce with how he's played down the field in the vertical game and just overall in general. I just think getting healthy on offense is going to be a huge boost for this team. And also, coming back home is going to be a big thing for this team. So we'll monitor what the defense looks like. Obviously, Zaire Franklin being dinged up could be a bit of a concern. But I think overall, this is a big win for the Colts on this Wednesday injury report. We don't have too many major injury additions like we had with Matt Goncalves last week, but getting Goncalves and potentially Pierce back, I think those will be huge for this Colts offense. So as long as the offense is full strength and they're back in their home dome, I think it's going to be tough to corral this team. And I think we could see them get back up to that high 20s, low 30s point total that we saw them reach in those first 3 games.
Yeah, without question. And we saw with Pierce in particular, when he was out on Sunday, that his niche never stopped being a part of the offense that they wanted to execute. That deep ball, they tried it a couple times, really 3 times with AD Mitchell. So you get a guy in there like Pierce, who obviously is going to do all the little things like the blocking, the intentionally pulling defenders away from the ball and where the target is actually supposed to go. All those little nuances, but then also just winning the 50-50 balls, converting those deep balls opportunities and, executing it at a high level. That was sorely missed last week. I mean, for what AD Mitchell, gave up a little bit, obviously, I thought he had a couple nice plays out there, but Alec Pierce was clearly missed.
Yeah. Because when you have Pierce out there, you have the full force of this role player offense that the Colts have, and with an AD Mitchell, it throws a wrench in it where, yes, you could get this huge, great play, but Pierce, you kind of know what you're getting day in and day out, and you know what his overall start is going to be for the offense, where again, Mitchell, it could be a 74-yard reception, but it could be dropping the ball at the 1-yard line. It could be a hold on what could be a game-winning touchdown late. So, I think just getting Pierce in for that stability, for that consistency, for all the little things he does, I think is going to be a big boost for the offense. And then again, with Goncalves, I had faith in Dalton Tucker going into this past week. I wish it wasn't misplaced faith because he had a really rough showing. So getting back to Goncalves, who's been just a fantastic pass blocker to start the year, I think it'll just add back to what this offense has done well all season, which is start strong with the passing game and then lead into that run in the second half. When you have Goncalves and Pierce back, it lets you throw for those 200 yards in half one like they have been, and then they can get back to just feeding Jonathan Taylor in half two. So I'm feeling good about this offense getting back on track here in week 5, especially with this latest injury report. Feeling really good about potentially getting some guys back. But coming up, guys, we're at the quarter mark of the season. We're looking at how the Colts are sitting at 3-1 through 1 month, probably their best first month in the Chris Ballard era. And we're going to dive into some of the strengths with this squad and why, they are sitting at 3-1 right now through the first month of the year.
Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details, and Mazda brings the same intention to how they craft every model. You can feel the Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to available Napa leather upholstery. With the all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you could drive with confidence through almost any season. Like our players, Mazda sweats every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. All right, welcome back, everydayers. We are now getting into the biggest strengths and weaknesses of this Colts team through the first month of the season. They sit 3-1, could just as well be 4-0. But between them and Daniel Jones, they're really one of the good stories, the biggest positive surprises of the NFL season. And yeah, I mean, Zach and I both have publicly taken our L's on Daniel Jones. We got to give credit where credit is due. The guy's playing at a very, very high level. He is not just like a cog in the machine. I think he very much is pulling the strings of this offense and executing what Shane Steichen is wanting out of him at a very high level. So great stuff from Daniel Jones. Now, Zach, one of the biggest strengths I've got to say about this entire team right now is that synergy between Shane Steichen and Daniel Jones, the marrying the play calling with not only just the passing game in general, but Jones' ability to identify pre-snap pressure where the protection needs to move, identifying even in the run game where things might need to be adjusted as well. What are you seeing there?
Yeah, we can talk systematically where Jones and Steichen have just been a really good match. You don't want to say a match made in heaven, because the deep ball could be better for Jones to start the season, but I think it's been a very good match between these two, just in terms of Steichen mashing that easy button for Daniel Jones in terms of, hey, we're going to do a lot of play action. We're going to do a lot of pre-snap motion. We're going to set things up to where Jones can just hit that first read, get to the back step of his drop, and get that ball out accurately and on time. And Jones has done a really good job of just understanding what he needs to do to get the ball out and in rhythm in this offense. But I think another part of this that has been really effective is just Jones's individual increase in play, individual improvements in play. Because I think on Sunday was a great just example of this, where a lot of things went wrong for the Colts on Sunday. They were off their intended path of offense. They couldn't throw the ball well early. They weren't able to stay ahead of the sticks. They weren't able to do a lot of their pre-snap motion because they had a lot of penalties that just made the whole process pretty ugly. And there was a lot of pressure up front with the offensive line getting its butt kicked by Jared Verse and Byron Young and all those guys up front that the Los Angeles Rams have. And Daniel Jones didn't just revert into being New York Giants Daniel Jones. We didn't see him drop down to being a 60 or 50% passer. We didn't see a ton of turnovers until it was pushing the ball vertically, which again, that is certainly an issue with him. But I thought he performed well under pressure. I thought he moved the offense when he needed to, went down in the fourth quarter with a fantastic drive and got the Colts ahead in that game. So, part of it really is Shane Steichen just scheming up a lot of things that benefit Daniel Jones and make life a lot easier for him. But another part of this too is just Daniel Jones feeling much more comfortable here in Indy and performing like a different level quarterback than he really ever did with the New York Giants. So you have to give credit to both of these guys where, again, Steichen's doing a lot of things that help Jones, but Jones is also taking big strides forward as a player. And it's led to the Colts having, I think by pretty much all accounts, they're like a top 5 offense in football right now through 1 month. And Daniel Jones, in terms of EPA per play and success rate, has been a top 5 quarterback to start the season. That's, I mean, I don't know if that's going to sustain the whole year, but I think he's going to be like in that conversation for top 10 throughout the course of the season with how this offense is formed. So yeah, Daniel Jones has played some really good football, and it's not all credit to Shane Steichen. There's some good credit that needs to go to Jones as well.
Yeah, for sure. Like he's certainly hitting guys accurately with open shots that are there and everything, but he's been more aggressive than I think we ever expected him to be. Like the intermediate and some of the deep stuff that he is hitting now, like the just go balls down the sidelines, those obviously could use some work. That's always going to be an area where he struggles a little bit, but like the corner routes and some of the posts and stuff, like beyond 15, 20 yards, some of those have been pretty crisp. So I've been pleasantly surprised with him. This next one, I don't want to just crown the offensive line in general, but I will say the run game, Jonathan Taylor, his ability to read his blockers and the blockers' ability to open up run lanes. What do you think of that? Because we've seen a couple instances now against the really good defensive fronts that the offensive line could struggle a little bit. Like, I think they're going to be good. They're going to take advantage of the weaker opponents. But when they go up against well-known, strong defensive lines, they're going to have some struggles. But overall, like the run game in particular has been really good.
Yeah, I think the whole process on offense is working really well in terms of when to run, when to pass, and because they stick with the run and their ability to just rely on Taylor late in games, I think is why the run game is working. Because we're seeing in a lot of these instances where the Colts are coming out and running for 2 or 3 yards a carry throughout a first half on like 8 carries, 6 carries, 7 carries. And it's not looking great, but their ability to just stick with the run in the second half of these games and their ability to wear down defenses and Jonathan Taylor's ability just to be Jonathan Taylor has led to a lot of success on the ground game this year. So yeah, they have the leading rusher in the league right now through 4 games. And a lot of that is Jonathan Taylor just being superhuman. But another part of that, again, is passing a lot early to set up the run later and making sure that Taylor doesn't get out of the game plan at all. So as long as the Colts can get an early lead in a lot of games, Taylor is going to go crazy in second halves. And I think that that's kind of the overall plan of attack for this offense. So I think that's worked really well for them. And for the offensive line, a lot of it is just staying on the path. You know, if you have struggles early, leaning into just things that work, a lot of their inside zone runs, and then building off those zone runs with similar looking concepts that are working in the second half of games. So yeah, a lot of it is just the ability to stick with it and wear down defensive lines and then rely on Jonathan Taylor to be Jonathan Taylor.
All right, so this next one, I'm scrapping the last offensive one because I don't want us to just heap all this praise on the offense. So defensively, a strength, I'm going to say, like the veteran additions, some of them to the secondary, Charvarius Ward and Cam Bynum, that's working really well there. Like there have been some blown plays where those guys are there on the end result, but it wasn't necessarily their issue. Like Charvarius Ward giving up that touchdown to Devontae Adams, I'm pretty sure like him and Nick Cross got mixed up somewhere along the line. There was supposed to be something that happened and it didn't. And then Cam Bynum, the Rams wanted to poke him because of his comments about crowd noise or whatever. But obviously, Mekhi Blackman tripped on that play for Tutu Atwell. And there also was only 10 players on the field. So that's not on Bynum. He's just the last guy trying to get Atwell down. But those two specifically I think have been awesome for this team. Ward, we saw a great example of him not out there against Denver, and it was not good with him out there. So he's been really strong. Even if he does give up a reception, he's right there to make the tackle, or he's putting in maximum effort to harass the ball or the receiver on every play, it seems like. So I've been thrilled with what he's bringing. And then Bynum, interceptions in his first 2 games. He is also going after the ball. I think he has policed the deep end very well also. So those 2 guys specifically, I think, have been huge positives for the defense.
Yeah, I think we're actually even downplaying the overall defensive performance through 4 games because the offense has just been so good. I mean, this Colts defense, by all accounts, is a top 15 defense in football so far. Now they've played Tua, Bo Nix, Cam Ward, and now Stafford. So 3 middling to below average quarterbacks, and then a top 5 to 7 quarterback in Matthew Stafford. And Stafford had his way with them. So I can understand where there's some pessimism with this defense, but I think they have a lot of the goods in place right now with Bynum, with Charvarius Ward, with Leatu Latu figuring things out, DeForest Buckner having a career game on Sunday. I think there's a lot of good things with this defense. I think Lou Anarumo is a really good defensive coordinator. His overall coverage concepts and what he brings to the defense is working really well for the team. And they're taking the football away at a pretty decent level right now. I mean, even on Sunday, again, you're playing against a very good offense with Matthew Stafford at the helm and Sean McVay calling the plays. They still got a big turnover that, if it wasn't for an OPI, would have put them ahead by 11 points with like 6 minutes left in this game. So I thought the defense played pretty well on Sunday for the most part, just a couple gaffes here and there, and they're really close to turning the corner. There's going to be a game here soon where they really do just turn the corner and they do figure this stuff out and they clean up a lot of this stuff. I think a lot of the ingredients are in the right place. It's just about putting all those ingredients together and getting the final piece of the puzzle that they're looking for. But I think the defense overall has been pretty solid. There are some things that we're going to like nitpick in the final segment, but Charvarius Ward and Cameron Bynum have been the biggest parts of this. And I would throw Kenny Moore in there as well, because we saw what happened when he wasn't out there this Sunday with pass coverage and just communication. I think having a Kenny Moore out there would have been pretty big. But a lot of the secondary guys are playing fairly well. I think the pass rush came alive this past game. And then I think Franklin's been better than expected as well. So, I think the defense is in a decent place. They're just really close to getting to where they need to be. There's just a couple things missing, which we'll talk about in the final segment. So that'll be my segue here, Jake, into our final segment, where we just talked about all the positives with this Colts team, a 3-1 Colts team through 1 month of the season. But what are some of the negatives that are holding them back, and what changes could be made to make those negatives not as big an issue?
The NFL season is in full swing, and FanDuel has an offer that you don't want to miss. So right now, new customers, you guys can bet just $5, and you're going to get $300 back in bonus bets if that $5 bet wins. That's right. Just pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across their entire app. FanDuel makes watching football even more exciting when you got a little something riding on the game. Whether you're a casual fan or you just love diving into the stats, playing daily fantasy, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. All right, money makers. Most people cannot name all of their financial accounts or even what they're worth. Seems like we've all got 10 different things in different areas, whether it's 401ks, properties, or other investments. When you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. And that's why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface, all on your laptop or your phone. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you, so you can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. I've got a lot of different irons in the fire, not a smart financial person by any means, but I've got college planning for my daughter. I've got like an Acorns account. I've obviously got a savings account and stuff, 401k. It's all in different spots, but when you use somewhere like Monarch, you can see where all of your worth actually is all in one place, which makes it a lot easier to keep track of. So don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off of your first year. That's 50% off of your first year at monarchmoney.com with Locked On NFL. All right, Zach, let's talk weaknesses, of which there haven't been many on this team. Again, they are 3-1, could very well be 4-0. They're in the driver's seat of the AFC South. They certainly look like the most impressive team there so far. So there are some weaknesses still. And I think, interestingly enough, a couple of their biggest ones have been on the offensive side of the ball. And, they're one of the top scoring teams in the league. However, when you get into the red zone, when you really need to score points and turn threes into sevens, they're near the bottom of the league. They're 25th right now in red zone offense, only scoring touchdowns on 47.4% of those trips. Spencer Schrader is getting a workout in the 35 yards or less field goal category. It's crazy. Like in the first few weeks, it felt like he was going out for a lot of like 27, 30-yard field goals. because the Colts are just not. They're finding ways not to put the ball in the paint. Essentially, there's been penalties. There's been missed opportunities where you could say a flag could be thrown on, throws going into the end zone and things like that. But at the end of the day, they're just not scoring enough touchdowns, which makes you think like better days are on the horizon, because they've obviously got the horses in place to score points. They just have to figure out how to do it in that condensed area. When you see their issues in the red zone, what's kind of the common themes there?
Yeah, I think they've been much better in the last 2 weeks in terms of getting to the red zone and finishing in the red zone. It's just a lot of that number comes from that Denver Broncos game, where I think they were 2 for 6 in that Broncos game, which is crazy. They got to the red zone 6 times against an elite defense with the Broncos. But you have to have a negative there, where it's like the only reason that game was close is because they kicked 4 field goals in the red zone against that Broncos defense. So yeah, I think they've found something that works a little bit better in recent weeks. Like one thing that you mentioned in those first 2 games is there was like 3 opportunities where there maybe should have been a pass interference called on the defense, but ideally you don't want to be in those situations where you're forcing the flag to bail you out because you're throwing a jump ball into the end zone. Like, you want to scheme up open shots. You want to be able to punch that ball in and get close to the goal line. So the Colts in recent weeks, I think, have done a good job of just, when they get within the high red zone, they are just slowly just eating away to get into that low red. And once they get into low red, they've been much better, especially in terms of running the football, getting Tyler Warren involved, getting Jonathan Taylor involved, sneaking it with Daniel Jones. And then we even saw the play action throw to Michael Pittman Jr. this past week in the low red. So I think they are figuring out the red zone offense a little bit. It's been a lot more promising the last 2 games. I think they are 4 for their last 6 in the red zone, I believe.
Sounds right.
And one of those, I think, was the end of the Titans game where they just ran the game out. So basically 4 for their last 5. I think they've been a lot better at getting that ball in the end zone, which is good, because 4 for their last 5 over the last 2 games, you didn't get there as many times you got in that Broncos game alone. So you have to convert touchdowns if you're not going to get into the red zone as much. And I think they've done a lot better the last 2 games in that regard.
Yeah, the Tyler Warren OPI last week was another missed opportunity as well, because they certainly were marching down to score a touchdown on that one. Now, this one hasn't been like a consistent issue, but penalties, like 11 penalties last week was crazy business. Yeah. So that was obviously a problem that I'm confident will get cleaned up in general, because some of these crews are very, very, very flag happy. You know what I mean? There was like the instance in week 2 where Howard had 3 on one drive. That's pretty rare. That's not going to happen a lot. But still, penalties are very much something that can change the tone of a game, or just like totally screw you out of opportunities. And the Warren one was a great example. And then we've had some on defense where you're like holding inside your own 15, 10-yard line or so. And it gives new life, or it takes your offense's life away. So just cleaning that type of stuff up, I think, will be big. In general, I think they're a pretty disciplined team. I don't think they've been super penalized under Shane Steichen, but that's definitely an area. It's the first thing Shane said when he was asked about today is like, what's probably the biggest area you guys think you could clean up through the first quarter of the season? He said penalties.
Yeah, especially timely penalties, because like you mentioned, a lot of the red zone issues come from getting penalties in that high red, and then you're getting a 1st and 20 from your own 30, or from the 30 going in. And that's just difficult to convert for a first down when the field is just so condensed at that point. So, timely penalties, I think, is a big thing they need to get better with.
Yeah. All right. So defensively, the run, they have not yet been totally trucked in the run game, but you can kind of see the groundwork there. Like, if a team really wanted to commit to it throughout a game, it might be able to happen. Oddly enough, they improved in yards per carry allowed after this last week, despite Kyren Williams having a pretty good game. It's just everyone not Kyren Williams didn't have a good performance for the Rams. But in general, we've seen J.K. Dobbins have had success. Devon Achane did a little bit. Kyren Williams, they have Ashton Genty this week, so let's not pretend like they have this awesome run defense. Is it the run fits and guys just not clogging up the lanes that you're seeing? because I've also seen like some guys just not getting off blocks, and then the linebackers maybe just not filling the gaps properly. But what have you seen in the run defense that's leaving them a little vulnerable?
Yeah, they're just really hot and cold right now in run defense, where it feels like every run is either a 7+ yard carry or it's a 1 yard carry or a negative 1 yard carry. There's not many where they're holding guys to like 2 or 3 yards on a carry. So it's really just about getting back to what works on those run stuffs that they're getting and cleaning up whatever the one issue is on a lot of these ones that are breaking free, because that's typically what it is. It'll be a couple of these like third down runs that have been like 3rd and 1s that break for like 30 yards. There was one against the Dolphins and one against the Titans. It was a defensive end just freelancing too much and not containing the outside. A couple of these power runs at the middle, the linebackers are just really struggling with their keys and not getting where they need to be. And then some other issues as well. I mean, and also Kyron Williams and Devon Achane, I think, are probably 2 of the top 5 like pure rushers in football. Like, you're just talking like pure running back ability. Those guys are just fantastic players. So I think it'll look a lot better when, Genti this week will be tough, but the Cardinals game, you and I might be running for them in that game, Jake, with all their injuries at running back.
Yeah.
So I think it will look a lot cleaner then. But I think like a lot of issues on defense, it really just comes down to they're gonna have to adjust to this new system. They're a 90+% nickel and dime defense right now. It's very difficult to fit the run from that kind of defense. So they're just gonna have to get better at their P's and Q's with it and get more comfortable with this new type of system. But there are some good foundations there. I mean, heck, by EPA per play, they were the number 2 run defense in football this past week in terms of EPA per play, because they forced that big fumble and got the 4th down stop in run defense. So I think there's some good elements there to their run defense. It's just getting to those couple things that work and cleaning up a couple of the issues that they've had.
Gotcha. My last couple ones here before we go. So pass rush inconsistencies, which it does look like they got a lot better. This last week was a pretty tough test because LA's line isn't all that great, but Stafford gets rid of the ball really quickly. So when you kind of bring Lou Anarumo's coverage his mixtures of coverage with guys actually winning some matchups up front, that has led to an improved pass rush. Latu's really coming on the last couple of weeks. You're finding kind of an X factor in the second wave with Tommy Adebaware. Like, you got guys kind of stepping up here. And then my other one is Xavier Howard, obviously. So he right now is across the entire NFL. He's allowing the 13th highest passer rating, which is 139.2. He is allowing just a hair under 73% completions. And then Pro Football Focus has him ranked as the 112th out of 113 qualifying cornerbacks. So get some more Jonathan Edwards in there, get some more Mekhi Blackman in there. That's kind of an area for opportunity, I think.
Yeah, I'll kind of lump in all this where I think a lot of the Colts issues have just come down to the lack of talent at 3 spots, or the lack of talent where it needs to be at 3 spots. One is the second edge rusher role, where Samson Ebukam, Kwity Paye, Tyquan Lewis, those guys have not lived up to what they're getting paid this year. And the Colts pass rush is suffering because they don't have that other threat off of the edge. And I think the biggest thing here is just Ebukam was paid $10 million this year to be that kind of guy. And not to the surprise of us, but he hasn't been that guy coming off that Achilles injury. So they need more juice to that edge rusher spot. The other one is linebacker 2, which we talked a little bit about with the run fits, where that second linebacker spot. Again, Jake, you and I might be one snap away from playing out there, because they just picked up Buddy Johnson off the Cowboys practice squad and waived Cameron Grown, who was essentially the second starter for the first 2 weeks. But his play was so poor that they've gone to Chad Mumo. They've gone to Joe Bacci's been there since the beginning of the year. Austin Ajake, who was on the practice squad. And now Buddy Johnson, I'm sure, will get some early down run. They are just trying everything they can there. And then Xavier Howard at cornerback 2, where the drop-off between him and Ward is so massive, where I would almost consider just leaving Ward in lock coverage on an island with wide receiver 1 and then having everybody else cover the other side of the field to protect Xavier Howard, because Ward is playing at such a high level right now. So I think those couple issues are holding back this defense from being what they can be. And the big test going forward will be if those guys can either improve or the Colts can find somebody else who can go in there and play over those guys and really solidify those spots. So we'll see going forward. But overall, again, the Colts 3-1, a plus 40-point differential, 3-0 in the AFC, sitting pretty on top of the AFC South right now. As much a great first month as you can hope for with this Colts team, and hopefully they can move to 4-1 this upcoming weekend. So we want to thank you guys for making Locked On Colts your first listen today and every day. The NFL season is finally here. So for your next listen, get a double dose of the Locked On NFL podcast. Tyler the Madman Rowland gives you a shot of espresso to start your football day, while Tony Wiggins gives you all the info and takes you into the barbershop with the smoothest breakdowns to end the day. Find Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. If you guys want to become a Locked On Colts insider and chat with us directly and get that insider scoop, follow that link in the show notes. And if you don't already, make sure you're following at Locked On Colts, at Jake Arthur NFL, and at Zach Hicks 2, all on socials. Also, subscribe to us on YouTube where we listen to your podcast. We love your guys' ratings, reviews, and we'll catch you guys back here tomorrow evening for Crossover Thursday.